I just pulled up to CCH Austin here with my girl, Caitlin.
Hi, y'all.
We are here to play the live stream. I think it's 2-5.
I don't know what it is. I just know I'm gonna wreck people.
All right, hopefully she doesn't wreck me. All right, here we go. Live stream, let's do this.
So Caitlin and I arrived at TCH Austin and immediately greeted by friendly staff and some amazing dealers, and I was so excited to jump in this game and play with some tough players and some that I really respect, one of them being Poker Guru, aka Texas Rob. So in this vlog, he actually puts me to the test for all my chips on the river, and I end up in the biggest decision I've ever had in my poker career so far, so stay tuned, you do not want to miss this vlog. Alright, let's get into some hands. In my first hand getting started here, I make a standard open in the hijack with King Jack offsuit. The button, small, and big blind call, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. The flop comes out Queen Jack Deuce Rainbow, so not a bad flop for our hand, however we are facing 3 other ranges. While we can continue betting here with some of our really strong draws and made hands, for example, a nice strong semi-bluff hand would be like Ace King of Hearts, so gut shot to the nuts and backdoor hearts, or a hand like Ace King of Diamonds for the same kind of draw. We might even consider check raising a hand like King 10 with backdoor flush draw possibilities like King 10 of Spades, for example, and some of our nutted hands that are going to continue barreling here would be like Queen Jack suited, a set of queens, jacks, and deuces, and aces and kings will bet at a high frequency as well. However, with this exact hand, we're kind of in the middle of our range with middle pair here with a good kicker and backdoor straight draw, so I'm going to check this one through but not planning on folding. So everyone else checks and we head to a turn card. The turn is a 9 of spades, bringing in a backdoor spade draw. John starts leading here with his pair and open ender, which is pretty reasonable, and he bets $40. Folds to me, and I'm gonna make the call here. There's not very many terrible river cards we can face, and we still have a pretty decent hand, and we're still drawing to a 10 for a straight. As you can see, I make the call here with almost 85% equity, but the river is a terrible, terrible, terrible card. It is the king of spades, so it brings in a backdoor flush draw, and now we have 2 pair, but there is a 4-liner to a straight. John checks it over, and we have a very nice bluff catcher here. Our hand does improve against some hands that might have had us beat, like Jack 9, Queen 9, etc. So lucky for us, we get a cheap showdown here, and John shows us the bad news, out-rivering us there with Jack 10 for a straight. In this hand, there's not a ton to talk about, but it folds to Texas Rob, and he raises the button with King 6 offsuit. I'm in a small blind and look down at Queen Jack offsuit. Against a tough opponent like Rob, I don't want to 3-bet this one and have him flat the button and have to play a pot out of position against him, so I decide to flat and hopefully realize the equity of our hand. Against his opening range, I think this hand fares okay. Mixing it up calls as well, so we head 3 ways to a flop of Jack 8, 10 with 2 hearts. We flop ourselves a pretty decent hand. The turn is the 5 of clubs. I can't let this one check through again. We had to deny equity from hearts as well as get value for our top pair, and our hand can improve to a straight, so I put out a bet of $50, and unfortunately our opponents don't have anything, but we take down the pot. In this hand, the $20 straddle is on, and mixing it up raises under the gun 2 with Ace Jack offsuit. It folds around to me, and I look down at pocket kings on my straddle, the absolute dream. I 3-bet, and being out of position here, I'm gonna make it a bigger sizing to give all of his hands a worse price to play me out of position. So I raised to $250. Mixing it up is a very, very tough player. He's not afraid to bluff and put money in the pot. I know he's a very sticky and capable opponent, so he's not gonna go anywhere with his Ace Jack, so we head to a flop. The flop is the worst nightmare for a holder of pocket kings. It comes Ace 8 4 rainbow. Now we find ourselves out of position in a very big 3-bet pot with second pair. So after reviewing this hand, I should be checking here about 60 to 70% of the time, and the other times betting small. I don't want to allow mixing it up to float here and realize the equity of hands like 5-6, 6-7 suited, backdoor flush draw hands that he can put pressure on me post-flop, so I thought in the moment it was best to put out a bet, so I decided to bet $180. And I don't really like my size here. I think I should have gone for like 120, 125. It was a little bit too big. He makes the call, so now we head to a turn card, which is the Queen of Clubs, bringing in a club flush draw. It sucks so bad to be out of position here. Checking seems so weak. You hate to do it, but at the same time, we have way better hands that we can continue betting here, and hands that we can check raise, like pocket queens, for example, would be a nice hand to check raise here, given that we unblock an ace-x combination, but the fact of the matter is, we have second pair, and mixing can have so many ace-x combinations here. We check, hoping he checks behind, obviously, but if he has a hand of value or a hand he wants to turn into a bluff, he's gonna fire here. And unfortunately for us, he puts out a chunky, almost pot-sized bet of $700. This is a great bet by him, but it's gonna get all all of my underpairs to fold most of the time. It does seem a little fishy that he would bet so big with some of his ace-x combinations unless, for example, he has exactly ace-8 or ace-4 suited and he's trying to get called by my ace-king and strong ace combinations. Ace-jack offsuit here is a hand you want to go for value, but you also want to get called by worse, like pocket kings, jacks, tens, so I really feel like I have no other option except to put in the fold here. I don't have a lot of clarity moving forward, and I cannot put in almost half my stack on the turn here when I would most likely be facing an all-in bet on the river, so I have to let this one go and unfortunately lose a super annoying pot with kings, but we're gonna move on to the next hand. In this hand, the 5-5-10 straddle is on, and it folds to me in the cutoff, and I have ace-9 offsuit. So I'm going to open to $40. Mixin calls in the small blind with king-jack off, and the big blind also calls who has the same hand, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. The flop is ace-king-3 with 2 spades. We flop ourselves a top pair. They check it over to me, and I'm going to continue firing. I don't need to go very big here facing 2 opponents. Our hand is a good hand, but it's not fantastic, and we're not going to get spade draws to fold. Hands we don't mind calling us for this sizing are gut shots, and if we bet a bit bigger here, we're still not getting flush draws or better aces to fold, so going for a small size is fine, so I bet $40. Mixing it up calls, and the other player folds, so now we're going to a turn card, which is the 8 of diamonds. He checks, and I check pretty quickly. I like to check back some of my weaker aces as it might induce worse to value bet river, as well as get paid by worse hands like maybe a king, an 8, or an underpair like pocket 7s, something like that. So we head to a river card, which is kind of an interesting card. It's the 9 of spades, so it does bring in the front door flush. Mixin leads for $150. There's definitely a lot of merit to raising here, although facing tough opponents, I don't want to give them a chance to reopen the action and put me in a tough spot facing a large raise on the river, so I decide on a little bit of a nitty call, knowing that we're probably going to be good here a large portion of the time, and sure enough, we have 2 pair, which beats his pair of kings, and we scoop the pot. In this hand, it folds to Caitlin in the small blind, and she raises it up with pocket 10s to $40. I'm in the under the gun straddle, and I defend king-jack offsuit, so we go heads up to a flop of ace-queen-4 with 2 clubs. Caitlin's gonna c-bet here, and she puts out a bet of $60. I have position here. I don't mind floating with a hand like this because I can start betting on a lot of turn cards, so I peel, hoping to use my positional advantage. So we head to a turn card, which is an offsuit jack, so now I do make a pair and still have my gut shot straight draw. Caitlin's a bit handcuffed as this is a terrible board for her exact hand, so she starts checking. I think a bet here is functional in 2 ways. We have a little bit of a semi-bluff hand, and we might have the best hand at this point, but we can start getting queen X combinations to fold if we're beat, and we can also possibly get value from worse, like a hand like jack 10 for example. So my hand is kind of a bet for value and a semi-bluff at the same time, although that's probably not a thing. I don't know she has pocket 10s obviously, so we do turn the best hand. I put out a bet and Caitlin lets her hand go, and we pick up a nice little pot. By the way guys, Caitlin just launched a poker vlog, and I kid you not when I tell you this vlog is so refreshing, hilarious, and a new innovative way to make a poker vlog. I highly encourage you to give it a shot. After I watch her vlog, I always come away amazed at how well she tells a story and makes a vlog so fun and compelling to watch. It's called Caitlin from Texas Poker. Go watch and subscribe. So at this point, we're about 40% of the way through the stream, and while I haven't had too many hands to play, I find myself just about even, so let's hope we can get into some interesting hands and build up our stack. If you guys have been watching my vlog from the very beginning, you'll notice a huge difference and improvement in my game. What do I have to thank for that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Poker Without Fear with Steve Blay and Alex Fitzgerald is an amazing course that really helps you beat low to mid-stakes games and teaches you how to be the bully at the poker tables. Click the link on the top right of the screen or the link in the description, and if you use that link, you'll get a big discount on the course. How big of a discount, you might ask? Well, with my link, you get $200 off the course. Make sure to check it out. I promise it'll improve your game immensely. Alright everybody, buckle up. This is not only one of the funnest hands I've ever played in my life, but is also one of the biggest highlights in my short poker career thus far, so I hope you guys enjoy this one. It folds around to Rob in the small blind with the 5-5-10 straddle on, and he raises to $60. I'm essentially in a small blind situation right here, and I look down at pocket 6s. While we can certainly flat this hand, it also functions, as you can see, as a very low frequency 3-bet. It's a hand that plays pretty poorly post-flop unless we flop exactly a set, and will mostly be downgraded to the bottom of our range on a lot of board textures. So I was hoping we could use our positional advantage in this one. So I would love to raise this one up here and use a bigger sizing and hopefully get Rob to fold a lot of his junk and just take this down pre-flop. I know Rob is sticky, but I also know he's going to be raising a pretty wide range, so we can get a lot of his crap hands to fold. William folds his straddle, and now it's back on Rob, and he makes the call, so now we're going to go heads up in this 3-bet pot. The flop is Jack 9-4 with 2 hearts, so this is a pretty neutral board range advantage wise. We're both gonna flop some stuff on this board. While Rob doesn't always have to flop a pair here, he is gonna have a lot of straightening possibilities and some flush draws. I do block hearts with my 6 of hearts, and this is a board that's pretty dynamic, so when he checks it over to me, I'm not gonna use a small sizing on this board. I'm gonna use a little bit of a larger size, so I go for almost half pot and make it $225. Rob makes the call, so now we head to a turn card, and here's where things get very interesting. The turn is the Jack of Clubs, so now the top card pairs. I know a lot of you have been dying to hear my thoughts on this hand, so I'm going to try my best to explain what I was thinking about during the hand. I don't think this is a terrible bet by Rob, although in a vacuum this line doesn't make too much sense because if you have a Jack, you would normally want to check and have me continue betting, but the flip side of that is he knows that when the top card pairs, I'm going to have a hard time repping this card, so I'm going to check back a lot. So if he does have a hand he wants to start getting value from, it is a nice spot to start leading. So Rob bets $350. There's many things running through my mind at this point, and one of them was just shipping it in right here, thinking that my hand is just good a lot of the time. The thing about my opponent is Rob is one of the most well-balanced and studied poker players I know, so I know he's so capable of bluffing, and I know he's going to have a lot of bluffs, specifically that go around the Jack and the 9. Although I don't know his exact hand, I thought he would have a lot of bluffs in this spot, start leading with hands like King Queen, maybe Ace High or King High flush draws that want to start putting my Ace Highs in a tough spot, so I'm not believing him just yet. The only problem with flatting here is there's not very many good river cards I'm gonna love to see. I'm gonna pretty much hate to see any card above a 7. The only card I might not hate to see is another Jack, to be honest with you. So I know if I flat here, I'm gonna have a very rough river decision. But you know what? I came to put my big girl pants on today, so I decide to flat and see what happens on the river. And here's what happens. So the river is the 7 of diamonds, and you can see me smiling because I just knew he was going to put me to the ultimate test in this spot.
Oh man,
Yeah, he's going to put her to the test, and here it is.
I love hero calls. I am sort of rooting for a hero call here. I love when people put the cape on, take it to the streets, and this would be quite the hero.
Rob's river bet sizing is polarized, meaning he's repping a monster or nothing at all. So he's repping a Jack, a full house with pocket 9s or 4s, Jack 9, 10-8, or 7s full. So as you can see, I take a lot of time with this one. I'm not convinced that I'm beat. My spidey senses are going off. Again, I know Rob is such a capable player, so he can have so many bluffs in this spot. He can turn a hand like Queen 10 into a bluff, King Queen, a 10x combination blocking the nut straight, and he can also have some missed heart draws, although I didn't know if his heart draws would start leading the turn. So this hand was a bit confusing. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but you know what? Mama didn't raise no quitter. I'm not here to fold 4th pair, so let's stick it in and make the call. And here's what happened.
There we go. Hero call.
My spidey senses were right, and I make the best hero call, calling with 4th pair in this spot where I'm at risk for all of my chips on the river, and man, that one felt amazing, and the table's reaction just made it feel that much better. Shout out to Texas Rob, he was such a good sport about it. We actually ended up all going out afterwards, and he was kind enough to tell me his thoughts. He said he thought he could get me to fold a lot of my Ace King and Ace Queen type hands. Shout out to Rob for trying to pull off the bluff, and honestly, most of the time it should have worked, but I'm happy I picked it off and won a very, very nice pot and one of the biggest pots of the session. So after the rush of that hand and now being up over $2,000 on the live stream and being the big winner, I finally worked up the courage to ask them to please change my name from Poker Rash to Poker Face Ash. So thankfully they changed my name on the live stream and now we are rolling. In this hand, Drew raises the low jack with 4-3 of hearts. I'm on the button and look down at King 10 of diamonds. I absolutely love 3-betting this hand, especially from the button, and as you can see, it's pretty much a 70-30 situation, and in this spot, I decide to flat, so we go heads up to a flop of Jack 3 rainbow with 1 diamond. The flop goes check check, although I might like to start leading on this board, but would rather have a hand like queen 10 of diamonds for example, because we wrap around the jack a little bit better. However, we can check here and see if our hand improves on the turn, and indeed it does. We spike a pair of 10s. Drew checks. I'm gonna start betting for value. I put out a bet and he folds pretty quickly, so we pick up a little pot. In this hand, Drew raises under the gun 1 with pocket 10s to $30. I'm in the hijack and look down at ace queen offsuit. I think this hand can go either way, but this time I decided to play it as a 3-bet and I raised to 90. Drew calls, so we're going heads up to a flop of 3, 6, 7 with 2 diamonds. He checks it over to me, and a lot of my 3-betting range is gonna consist of hands like overcards and bigger pairs, and sometimes some straightening cards like 8, 9 suited, 9, 10 suited, hands like that. So I think I make a little bit of a mistake here by checking. At the time, I thought the board was somewhat coordinated and didn't favor my range. However, on 3, 6, 7, it's hard for him to make the nuts unless he has exactly 5, 4, and I don't think Drew is raising that hand from under the gun. But for example, if the flop was 5, 6, 7, that would be a board our range would check. I think on 3, 6, 7, I should have continued the aggression, but nevertheless, I did check and we head to a turn card. The graphics are wrong, it wasn't the 4 of hearts, it was a king, so he checks, and now I can start betting and repping this card and also put pressure on all of his hands. Drew was pretty card dead and not playing a lot of hands. I think his VPIP was around 10%, so I know he's going to be very pair heavy here to 8s, 9s, jacks, 10s. I think he's capped at jacks because I think his hands like queens, kings, and aces always 4-bet in this formation, so I think I now have range advantage on this card. I also block his best combination of a king x hand here because I do have ace queen, so I block, for example, king queen. I bet $105 and Drew thinks for a bit and then makes the call. I decided on any diamond I was going to bomb the river because I have a pretty good flush blocker with the queen of diamonds. Well, the river is a diamond, but it's a very interesting diamond. It is the king of diamonds, so now the top card pairs. I can definitely keep repping this card, but here is where I make the mistake in the hand. I knew I'd have to make it a big sizing. The pot is $400 and I decided on a bet size of $375, almost full pot. However, on this card I need to polarize. I need to rep ace king here, and the only way I can really do that for a polarized sizing is if I overbet. I really wish I would have gone for the overbet sizing. I think Drew would have a hard time calling with pretty much any hand if I would have put in the overbet. So lesson learned, even though I did almost a pot size bet, I don't think it was enough to get the job done with my ace queen high in this spot, and Drew thought for quite a while and finally picked off the bluff correctly. So shout out to Drew on a great call there. And unfortunately we lose this pot. I don't hate my line, but I think my river sizing could have been better. In this hand, Drew raises an early position and picks up 4 callers, including myself with king, queen of hearts and the hijack. I decide to flatten this spot, and we head 4 ways to a flop of king, queen, 3 with all diamonds. While it might seem that my hand is very good, having top 2 pair on this type of board looks a lot better than it actually is. Our hand can't really improve that much unless we obviously spike a king or a queen, and the board can get very bad for us. I don't really have any sets in this formation except pocket 3s because I would have 3-bet kings or queens, but if I did have a set of 3s, I could consider betting in the spot, but the flop does check around, so we head to a turn card. The turn also checks through, and now we head to a river card, which is another queens, so we did hit that miracle card that would improve our hand to a nutted hand. We have a full house. Now I'm lighting up inside, praying that somebody has the ace of diamonds in this spot because we could win a giant pot. Unfortunately, as you can see, our opponents don't have much at all. But I start getting really excited because I see Drew reaching for chips and he bets $125. We are clearly going to be raising this one up, so I put in a raise, and of course, none of my opponents can call, but we do scoop a nice pot, rivering some lady luck. If you watch my most recent vlogs, you know I've been caught up in some massive PLO bomb pots, and in this hand, that is also the case. We head to a flop of ace 7, 10, and 2, 3, 5, and mixing it up, pots it for $90. Texas Rob then pots it to $540 with his nut straight on bottom and heart draw, and he doesn't have much on top. Now it's on me. I have top pair with a jack kicker on the top and a gut shot, and on the bottom I have a straight but not the nuts, so it's likely I'm behind on the bottom, but I am drawing to the nut flush. I just don't think I can fold, even though I don't really want to stick a ton of money in on these bomb pots, but here we are. Mixing it up goes all in for his remaining $200 and something, so now this pot is pretty big and we're heading to a turn. The top turn is an 8, the bottom is no help to us, it's the queen of diamonds. I didn't realize it at first, but I made the stone nuts on the top with jack 9, and I still have a straight on bottom, although it's unlikely it's good. But I am drawing to the nuts on the bottom. Rob puts out a pot size bet, I jam, he calls. The graphics are slightly wrong on our stack sizes, but I know this pot was around $8,000, and so we're heading to see 2 river cards and a pot where I could scoop the biggest pot of my life if I can hold on top and scoop with a heart on the bottom. So here we go to see 2 rivers. Come on, poker gods, I feel like I've been very selective in using my 1 times. Heart on the bottom, and don't pair the board, please. Well, the poker gods answered half my prayers. We hold with the nuts on the top, and on the bottom, we chop it up with Rob. So we chop Mixin' It Up's money. We are fortunate to chop this one up, but I also could have scooped the biggest pot of my career, but don't worry, we'll get to that on a future vlog. In this hand, I make a little bit of a blunder where I raise the cutoff with ace 9 offsuit. Mixin calls in the small blind with king 10 offsuit, and we go heads up to a flop of 10, 6, 3 with 2 spades. He checks it to me. I'm gonna make a standard C bet, and I bet $40. He makes the call. The turn is what I thought was a great card, was an offsuit 9, so now we have middle pair with the ace kicker. And then Mixin decides to lead into me for $85. I'm definitely not going anywhere with my pair now. I think it's good a ton of the time, although I'm not sure why he's leading on this card. I make the call and we head to a river, which is the king of spades. It completes queen jack and the spades, but I do have the 9 blocker in my hand. He then leads for half of his stack, which is $200. I think my hand is downgraded to a fold, but I tried to get fancy and make another hero call, so I make the call and see the bad news. I definitely think I should have let this hand go. It's unlikely he's gonna bet half his stack with a bluff. I just couldn't see how I was beat, but sometimes you're just beat. I was in the game for $2,000 and I cashed out with $3,340 for a nice profit of $1,340.
What a ride, what a stream, what a call. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that one, so comment below what you thought of my call. Was it a punt or was it a good read? Let me know. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the vlog, would you do me a huge favor and go all in and like, comment, and subscribe? It would mean the world to me. We're just getting started on this journey. Next vlog is a vlog number 50. It's only up from here. I'll see you guys next time.